This journey never starts in the middle. We all have a beginning. On this episode of This Week in Indies, we'll be discussing advice for new authors and how to avoid the publishing predator. What are some of the tips we wish we had known as we started our journey? Do any of us have horror stories to share that would benefit the writing community? We'll touch on these things and more as we visit with the roundtable of panelists. And we'll hear from C.L. Cannon as she brings us up-and-coming indie books akin to The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. Then we'll spend the final 5 minutes with USA Today best-selling author and podcaster D.C. Gomez as she shares a glimpse into her world of writing. So sit back and grab a cup of coffee and get ready for a good time. Here's your host for this week, Madilynn Dales. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic episode. I promise it's not Shark Week, but we are going to be talking about the sharks that are out there that like to prey on indie artists in general. But I'm excited for today's show. We have a sponsor, Lily Lucchesi, and we'll hear more about her later in the show. But without further ado, let's bring in our amazing panel of authors. Good morning, everybody. Well, for some, good afternoon, depending on where you are. So let's go around.
You're in Australia.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. We're going to go around and let everybody introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about you and your work. So we're going to start up here with Sean.
I'm SM Hillman professionally. Just call me Sean. You can find my blog and information on my writing at thewickedboys.com. I'm a speculative fiction writer, mostly role-playing game reviewer, and game designer, and I'm very happy to be here.
Hi everyone, I'm DC Gomez. I write in multiple genres, everything from urban fantasy to children's books. So today I'm thrilled to be talking to you guys and just getting to know what everybody's going on, what are they doing, how are they fixing these predators?
Yeah.
Greetings, fellow humans. My name is JD Estrada. I'm hopefully I'm one of your favorite JDs. If not, I hope to be one of your favorite 00 Banana secret agents. If you don't know what that means, look for the hashtag 00 Bananas. I've been meaning to upload a bit more, but they're fun. Multi-genre author from Puerto Rico, but now decided to move to Atlanta 6 years ago. It's been a while, but still, Puerto Rico is always going to be home. I'm going for the Puerto Rico Comic Con, so hope that I see people there.
Sweet.
Hey guys, I'm Alexander Gideon. It's been a while, but my writing style can best be summed up by the phrase, and many people died. Also a multi-genre author, mostly fantasy, also write sci-fi. Had a horror story come out just this year. I've got another one coming out later on in this year as well. If you pay me to write it, I will.
Sweet.
Hey guys, CL Cannon, aka Courtney Cannon. I do a lot of things here on Going In Now, like the Indie Connection and the monthly marketing tip. I'm also the owner of Fiction Atlas Press that helps authors grow their social media and newsletter followings and a bunch of other stuff. We also publish anthologies, and I've got a Kickstarter coming up soon for Ink and Incantation that starts in March that I'm really excited about, but also really excited to talk about predators today because I've got some experience with that.
Oh, yeah. I feel like we've all got our own stories to share on that. So before we dive in, I want to just take a moment to say hi to everybody that's here this morning. We got Anita and AC, books by Tiffany. AC says, look at that pack of miscreants. AL's here. Karina's here. Karina, I think, is pulling either a super early morning or a late night to hang out with us guys. Mm-hmm. So let's just hit the topic where it is. What was your first experience like having somebody kind of reach out to you and try to pull you in to like either do like a paid review thing with them, or what is your first experience like with the sharks?
I think the challenge for all of us is going to be remembering the first one because I'm pretty sure that it's been many. For me, I
Yeah.
think the first one was this random publishing house that contacted me because they saw that my book was in the Library of Congress and they were offering me to a distribution deal and whatnot. And you know what? Something stinks from a mile away. Well, it just stank, and I'm like, you know what? Let me do a quick search, which I recommend for any time that you get something that seems a bit shady. Do a search, do a basic search. I did a search, and the first 20 results is like scam, fraud, fraud, scam, 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 and I'm like, okay, properly deleted and blocked.
Man.
So I think my first experience was probably I had a friend who was so this was back in the 90s, and I had a friend who paid one of those publishers who, if you pay them, they will print your book and publish, and well, they won't publish it, but they'll print it and send it to you so you can do that. And he had mentioned that I was looking to be a writer as well, and it turned out not to be the greatest deal. I mean, I didn't, I was very not interested in that at the time. I didn't realize people independently published their own stuff. And so I was looking to be more traditionally published, but still, they were trying to hard sell me on that. And it turns out they were a pretty shady bunch. No, I'm sure not all of those book printers were, but this one in particular was. A funny Instagram story, because I just recently started on Instagram a few months ago. But last week, I had someone reach out to me, and I was thinking they were hoping that I'd be able to give them money. Of course, I blocked them, but I was thinking, did they not know I'm a writer? Where am I getting money from? It's the wrong. You picked the wrong profession to ask for support.
Yeah. Who wants to go next, guys?
I think I'll go next. I think my first experience with this, I got a notice from somebody's like, hey, I can make an Amazon bestseller. And this is when you're brand new, you have no idea what that means. Like, what can you do? They're like, yeah, we can help you raise your followers. And it's one of those questions I was like, Amazon doesn't tell you how many followers. How are you going to prove this to me that you did that? It's like, well, we have a way. I'm like, how? How can you possibly do something that Amazon doesn't offer? So I went back and forth, and it was the first time I realized that people like to take advantage of somebody that's new or somebody that's trying it out. It's like, how many people fall for this every single time? And you're trying to do it in good faith, and they just kind of continue to push. So it became how persistent they were and never wanting to stop that kind of got me. I was like, oh, wow, this is a thing that people really do.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's insane.
It's not just publishers either. It's something that I get a lot of messages on, generally through either Twitter, or actually through my the email me portion on my website, and it's people that are offering like editing services and that kind of stuff. And it's like, there's a lot of very legitimate editors out there. If you're going to my website and message me directly, that's really shady. Like, you have your own marketing, you have your own thing, and it's all word of mouth. And it's like, I can kind of get it. Like, if you message me and you're like, hey, so and so that John Hartness or whoever it is, like someone that I'm working with, that I know, said that you're looking for an editor and gave me your info. I'd be like, all right, cool. Let me take a look at your stuff if you're being recommended. But they're always just like, hey, I'm this random person you've never met. I don't even have a social media presence. You want me to edit your book? It's like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
If I send you that, you're publishing it. Like, that's what you're going to do if I do that.
Oh, no. Yeah, that would be very scary. No. Yeah.
I agree with Alex. Like, if someone is contacting you, then they're not doing well enough to have word of mouth or to have their advertising working for them. So they're probably not going to be good fit for whatever task you need to be done. I'm trying to remember the first one because I've had a lot. The first thing that I can remember is a big publisher, a big scam publisher coming to me and being like, well, if you pay $12,000, we will publish your next book. And I'm like, well, I let me think about, no, I don't want to.
Yeah.
I could publish 3 books for that cost, or maybe even more. No, I'm not going to pay you $12,000. And they have no social media presence. They have like 50 followers on Twitter, and that's not going to get me anywhere.
Yeah, no. Sketchy. Ugh. Yeah, Instagram's bad about letting you have a ton of influence.
Block this person. Do you want to block this person and any account that they create, or just this person? I'm like, what do you think?
For real.
It's like, I'm just gonna block them here, but if they come again with a better approach.
Yeah. We've got a couple of people that have joined a little bit later. We've got Clifton, and then AC and JD are talking about the searching. Karina says, sadly, I was published by Vanity Press, but I didn't know at the time. I was new and naive, which is true. Like DC said, there's a lot of them. They prey on that. And Ale Mingle says, I'm wondering if anyone has negative experiences submitting screenplays to agents. I am at that stage this year and have heard a ton of horror stories about submitting screenplays. Ooh, that is a good one. I don't do screenplays, but do any of you guys?
I have not, but I've heard some really awful stories. I've heard awful stories in terms of manuscripts and screenplays, and for the adaptation. And the worst offenders are the ones where in the contract you sign off basically the rights to your intellectual property and your characters. That's, one thing is like they'll publish and they'll make all the money and whatnot. The other thing is that they literally steal your right to write about what you created. And I'm just like, what? And it happens. If you ever get a contract, hire a lawyer, talk to someone you trust, not someone, hey, I'm on a budget. That's not the time. It's like, eat ramen for 4 weeks, get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I will say though, I think sometimes that depends on the paycheck though. If someone is like, hey, I want to buy your intellectual property, your characters, here's $10 million, I'd be like, absolutely, go nuts. Like whatever you want to do with them. But yeah, most of those contracts are really low, like really low balling, like less than 5 figures, kind of low balling. Let me take everything that you've got in this, and if it blows up and making multi-million-dollar movies, then you're just out. It's kind of Andrei Sapkowski, who worked The Witcher, had kind of got into that with CD Projekt Red. Though kind of they renegotiated some stuff because they realized that they need him in that, but he sold the rights to make games for like $4,000 or something back when the first one was made, because he didn't think it was that anyone's going to be interested in it and that it wasn't going to go anywhere. And now The Witcher 3 is one of the biggest video games like ever made at this point. So.
Yeah.
I wouldn't sell the rights to a poem, dude.
Right.
And Anita says, my contact form makes all the scammers forfeit their soul to Cthulhu. I cannot say that word ever.
Cthulhu.
There you go. What did AC said? Go check their Instagram talking about spammers. So
my experience with Lovecraft is that when in doubt, use phlegm. So Cthulhu.
It happens on LinkedIn too, and I guess. I'm not surprised, but I'm a little bit chagrined by that, because you would think that LinkedIn would monitor that a little better, and maybe they do. I don't know, but yeah, I've gotten some shady requests and friend requests and stuff like that on LinkedIn as well, and so they're smart. They're everywhere, even on the professional sites like that.
They are, and I ended up getting off of LinkedIn because that's the only interaction I was getting was from like people trying to spam me and coerce me into like doing all that. I was just like, no, nada. But what would you guys recommend to keep those people at bay?
They're gonna keep coming. Just keep blocking, and when it really seems fishy, block. Don't engage. Don't exchange. Nothing. If it feels bad, but it was good, it will get to you some other way. It's not going to be through one source. So, and after getting one wonderful psycho from YouTube, I have become Tasers is good. I have learned to click that block and mute button.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard to say how you keep them away, because every once in a while somebody will say something that makes you go like, really? Do I really need help? And it's not even what they're offering. It's just the thought of like, I get a lot of them through my website. They send me a whole bunch of emails like, hey, I found you on IG. I'm like, on purpose? Like, what were you doing? They're like, I think I can help you. It's like, well, if you found me, why do I need help? Like, why are you sending me this message? Why are we having these conversations? And it's hard because sometimes I think we have to get really thick skin and just realize you're just trying to make some money. Go find somebody else to make money, because it's not going to work. And that's the hard part, because every once in a while, I think the creative in us goes like, do I really need help? Is it really what's going on? So that's the hard part sometimes.
Yes.
I think a lot of it's also not, you're not going to keep them away. You're just not. Unless you completely get off all social media and all forms of contact, you're not keeping them away. And none of us can afford to do that.
That's
what you
true.
got to do is learn how to identify them and know when something can be legit and when the majority of the time it isn't. Like one of the biggest rule of thumbs that I was taught way back when is the money always flows from the publisher or from the publisher to the author, not the other way around. You shouldn't be paying whoever's publishing you to publish you, unless it's like even self-publishing. You're not paying Amazon or whoever you're going through to publish you. You're paying for ISBN numbers and for editing and for all of that kind of stuff. That's you're paying for that, but the actual publishing part you're not paying for. That's all coming to you. And so that's some of those things. And it's also kind of knowing your worth as well. There's also those times where it's not a scam, but like $25 for that short story in an anthology that has no big names. Like, is that really worth your time? And like finding what is worth your time and effort and everything. You now have a story you sold for $25 that cannot all the first time rights are gone. And so, if you sell it to someone else, you're going to get a lot less money than, you would have originally. Kind of like, the pro markets like Podcastle, Zombies Need Brains, that kind of thing, 8 cents a word right now for it. Or if it's a reprint, $100, a lot less than you get. And, you didn't make enough on the first one. You could sell that one yourself to 25 people and you made just as much money,
Yeah. And I want to bring up Quentin's comment real quick. Many of these scammers have even convinced themselves or have been taught that the people they're scamming deserve it and see themselves as Robin Hood figures. And that is kind of like, I get that vibe when a lot of them send me, hey, I can increase the amount of followers you have, kind of stuff. Like
that's one of the most common ones. And one I want to bring up though, actually, I have a couple of examples that I pulled up because I was like, let me not delete them because these are all within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm an interior book formatter. If you are looking for a book formatter or have new projects, I would love to work with you. That one's not bad because that one seems actually legit, and that's why I started with that one. Here's where it's gonna get really cool. Hello, fantastic person. I am a digital artist that specializes in comics, character designs, concept arts, cover art, fan art, and so on. I messaged you from a comic-related group. Thought you might need an artist. Can I show you my previous work? Still, that one's edging in, so it could be legit, but I'm not interested because I'm like, we have no one in common. That's another thing that I did a check. We have no one in common. I saw their profile. I saw their website. I'm like, and I already have 2 artists on the go right now. And then I saw, hello there, I work as a digital artist, comic books, character design, same message. So when you see repeat messages, that's also a tendency that you're going to see. You're going to see the same exact message from 5 people of different genders, nationalities, ages, etc. And it's insane. So if anyone starts with hello, fantastic person, and they don't know you,
then you're part of a group message.
Oh, yes. That's a good way to look at it, the group message thing. Alexander, you I think started to say something toward the start of that.
If I did, I forgot what it was.
The scammers are good though. And I mean, what do you think if we could give advice to new individuals starting out as authors? What do you think we should tell them about the sharks? Like, say no?
Honestly, my biggest thing when I started out, I wish I had a community to ask questions of. I think that was my first thing. I wish I had a place that I could be like, by the way, I got this message. What do you think? Because if you're new and you have no idea where to start, it feels so overwhelming. You feel like you're alone in the sea. And then you're getting these people like, hey, I can help you with your website. Because they always start out, it's like, it looks great, but I can make it better. I was like, I thought it looked great. Why do I need to make it better? Like, it was working to get you here. So it is finding a community and not being afraid to ask questions. At the end of the day, I think as an indie author, we have some of the best community ever. That you can go and ask people honest questions like, what do I need? How does it look? How can I do? Instead of just letting 50 of these messages get to you. Because eventually you get enough of them, you start questioning yourself. It's like, oh, does it need help? Really? Like, what do I need to do? What is this? So, and especially you're not alone. I think that's the part that I would like for people to remember. You're not in this business by yourself.
And
go ahead.
I was going to kind of dovetail on that. Just that, we're not your enemies or even your rivals, unless apparently it's in the romance where there are rivals. I don't know. But your fellow writers aren't your enemies. We're not your rivals. We are, at least my experience has been, that people are just as excited about your success as they are their own success. So don't be afraid. Like DC mentioned, don't be afraid to reach out to people. That will save you a lot of time and headache and heartache, I think, along the way.
Yeah, you definitely, no one is your rival. None of us can write enough to satiate any reader ever in our life. Everything that you will ever write in your life, a voracious reader will probably read in 2 weeks. Like, it's just, we all do better. Like Jim Butcher's doing better. He's doing really fantastic. Awesome. If you're writing urban fantasy, so are you. Like, that's what you want. But one of the big things is that community is I'm a big proponent of, if you have cons that are in your area, go to cons. And when you go to a con, especially if you're a newbie, you are Boblin the Goblin. You ever played D&D? You are Boblin the Goblin. You need to go make yourself likable. If established writers like you, we're going to collect you. Like, that's how it goes. We're going to be like, you over here. Okay. Let me show you. Let me show you their way. Like, that's what we're going to do. And you need that. You need someone who knows the industry. Look into who's going to be going to a con. Look at who's writing in your genre, who's, like, where are they at, how many books they have, are they, successful, are they someone you would trust to know what's going on, and then, go and do your best to lamprey onto them for the rest of your life. When I was 19, I showed up to Con Carolinas in Charlotte because I've been a big fan of David Coe and Faith Hunter and all of them, and they taught me how to write because I went there and said, we're going to be friends. And that's what happened. And hey, now I've got, something from David's book tattooed on my arm. Got a whole blog post about that if you want to go read that. But you need people. We write alone, but we don't succeed alone.
Yeah, and I like that Quentin points out that some authors actually advertise mentorship programs on their sites. That's something that would be really great for new authors to get into.
Absolutely.
I will caveat that because part of my take on this is if you are going to hire someone, if for a mentorship, for your editing, for any service, you need to vet them. That's going back to the community. You need to look at their reviews on multiple websites. You need to talk to people that they've actually worked with before and go through the whole process with them and say, how did this work? How did this work? So you know exactly what to expect, not just to know if they're a good person to work with in general, but if they're a good fit for you, because that's a really important part of, working with other individuals in the service industry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, don't be afraid to interview your mentor, right? Just like when you go for a job, you should be the one interviewing the people trying to hire you, right? Interrogating them, I guess, maybe a harsh word, but you really are. Hey, tell me about working here. Why would I want to work here other than the amazing amounts of cash you're going to offer me? Same thing with mentors. And are we going to talk about agents at some point? Because I think that's important to talk about a little bit.
We can definitely lead into that if you want to take it away there, Sean, because you've got a point there.
I remember, again, folks remember I'm old. I'm very old. But and when I say back in the 90s, I was, it's a long time ago. But I remember, I can't remember the author's name, but she had a lot of really good advice. She's passed since then, but she had a lot of really good advice. And I remember reading one of her articles where she talked about agents and said, if it's, and I want to say it was the 90s, and it's been a while, so like 5%, over 5%, if they're taking more than 5%, that's no good. Like, don't go with that. 5% is as much as any agent should take, and some will take less than that. So I think too, that's one place where we're very vulnerable, and maybe one reason why I haven't sought out an agent myself. And I'm not attacking agents. If you're an agent, I'm not attacking you. I promise. Because a good agent is great to have. But there are, or at least there were once upon a time, a lot of predatory agents out there as well.
There were, and Karina has a good point about the whole, she mentions face-to-face conversations with people that do mentors and coaches and stuff. That I feel is, especially nowadays, very important, because you don't know if you're actually working with somebody or if somebody's trying to scam you.
Another thing, since we're all on social media, predators behave like predators. If you're saying, man, I can't get reviews or something, don't be surprised if you're going to get messages that say, hey, I offer you reviews. If you're looking for an artwork or something and you vent, because at least for me, the vent specialty is Twitter. It's like I just vomit that. Make sure that it's not something that I would have to say that I took Ambien before I tweeted. But it's where I vent the most. And it's not where I get spammed the most. That's the curious thing. Where I get spammed the most by far is Instagram, followed by LinkedIn. There was a guy that he zeroed in on me because LinkedIn, email, Facebook, Instagram. And I'm like, if this was a proposition for a date, I would call the cops.
For real. That's very stalkerish.
And again, if you're doing that, predators are going to go like, I smell opportunity.
Yeah.
There's blood in the water.
Yes.
And agents are, as someone who hasn't been agented but know a lot of people that are agented, it is it's the kind of relationship, it's basically your, like, the literary equivalent of a marriage, like this is a really, like, deep partnership that you're going to have with this person, to trust them with, they're your business partner. They're someone that you're going to have to go in on. And so it's really making sure that this person's going to be a fit and are, or successful in the genres that you're at. Don't be so, in want of a agent that you settle for the first person who, would be available. There's also, SIFWA has some really good resources for agents as well. There's they have like a tool that has like a lot of agents that are on it. And if you're looking at an agent, there's it's been a long time since I've gone onto it, but you can actually, there's an email that you can send to SIFWA with like, hey, this is the person that I'm looking at. Is there any can this be vetted through you guys? And they'll come back and be like, yes, this person, they're great. Or they'll be like, sometimes they'll even be like, we don't have any information and we can't say one way or the other in that respect. And that's fair. There are new agents the same way there are new writers as well. And so, it's one of those take a chance kind of things in their regard. But agents, you always need to know how connected they are. If they're someone who's never been in New York and don't have any of those connections, they're not going to benefit you at all.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of those, like, how high of a risk do you want to take on things, which could totally lead into another topic.
And it's like, it goes between like, do you want the new agent that doesn't have any like accreditation or anything, or you can't see any thing, or hey, this is a new agent, used to be an editor at Tor. Like, maybe let's go with that person. Like, they're going to be a little more connected in the industry.
Yeah. Let's see. Karina says, I would only sign with an agent if they previously worked from a reputable publisher, which is a good point. So kind of goes back to the risk thing. So after you guys became a new author and you had your first experience with the sharks, what are some things you've taken into like how you do things, like your process to avoid them? You just not even give them the time of day? Like, what are some of the things when they fill your email box that you do?
For me, I'm a total block. For me, anything that's a cold call, I'm not gonna take. My experience is that if I want a good editor, if I want a good artist, if I want anything of the services, proofreading, formatting, or anything, I'm gonna ask someone who has already gone through the experience and cares enough to share that information. I'm not gonna go like, this person's website looks professional enough and blah blah blah, because I've seen websites that look very professional but that have scammed people in so many ways. And there's also the categories of things that you can get scammed on. When you're an indie, proofreading, editing, line editing or developmental editing, formatting, book reviews, and artwork. Those are 5 categories that you have to watch out. And I've been hit by all 5. And I have not horror stories, but just like, wow, what balls do you have to say that this is a good idea? You can get unlimited reviews for on Goodreads and Amazon for like $1,000. And I'm like, what is this pretty woman scenario that you're presenting? Because it ain't pretty.
Anybody else want to chime in?
Well, when I first started out, I would try to educate, like if someone was breaking Amazon terms of service with a service or they were trying to offer me or something, I would try to educate them. But after a while, you just, like JD, you just start hitting the spam button, the block button, because they don't listen. They don't care really most of the time. And it's just a waste of your time and your energy. I actually have a thing, like if somebody if they message me on like Facebook, which is where Facebook and Instagram is where I get the most spam. So my Facebook page has like people wanting to date me and people wanting to sell me stuff and all of that nasty crap. So I have an automated email response that says, if you want to get in contact with me for this, you can email me here. If you want to get in contact with me for this, you can email me here. If you are cold calling me or trying to sell me something, just go ahead and delete all my contact information. Just like pretty much like, I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to do anything with it. So you might as well give up, kind of thing. But I still get stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'm now at the point that I don't even think about feeling bad. Before, like, I'm very old school, so I felt like I needed to reply to people, and I felt like all sorts of guilt. There was too much emotion in my life. And now I'm just like, delete. I don't think I have this comment in terms of like having to be connected with anybody. It's like if you have enough time to send a message to somebody about something you know is completely a waste of their time and you're just trying to get money, I don't feel guilty about deleting and not even thinking about it. So, and there's a lot of things, and I don't know why, but I think it's like most humans have this idea that we have to be semi-polite. At least I did at one point in time. Now I'm like, the end. Don't care.
I don't like a hard sell on anything, even things that are good for me. And the dentist will say, well, this tooth has never hurt me in my life. You're just trying to, I'm suspicious, right? I'm skeptical and suspicious. I'm like, why do you want me to remove the tooth? It doesn't hurt and doesn't feel bad. Again, dentists, I don't hate dentists. I just like agents. If the hard sell immediately turns me off. So I don't really even get to, and the cold call, I mean, you don't really know who I am, right? So I'm not interested in interacting with you if that's the case, because they clearly didn't do, although I guess in some cases they do research, but most of the time they don't do any research. You're just an email address. You're just a Instagram. You're just a Twitter handle. So like DC was saying, I don't feel bad about blocking, deleting, never reading it, never opening it, and will there probably be a good opportunity in there that I miss because of their approach? Maybe, but that's I'm willing to take that chance for my own peace of mind, right?
Mm-hmm. And honestly, if it's something like that's a really good opportunity, like, if I was an editor and I was gonna approach someone that I wanted to be editing or something like that, like if I was really gonna do that, I would be looking at someone that I could also talk to and could vet as well. Like I would, like, for me, like if I was an editor trying to work with me, I'd go out to John Hartness first. I'd be like, all right, they're published here. Let me talk to that. Let me see them. I know that they're working on this. I want to get in touch with you. Can we have an introduction? That kind of thing. Like that's where I'd be wanting to do that if it's someone I'm wanting to like really work with and that kind of stuff. And a lot of these are pitched. They're like, oh, you are so interesting, and I really want to work with you specifically, and that kind of thing. It's like, you've not put in any effort to make me actually believe that you didn't just scroll through Twitter and I came up as a suggested like person to follow kind of thing. Like, it's really, the amount of work someone puts in as well, because like I've gotten those messages where I've had a few that I've replied to, like I've gotten it through my contact form, and it's been less like, I offer these services, and it's been like, hey, I read through your catalog, and like they've put in things where I know, like, hey, like you wouldn't know that about book 2 if you hadn't read it, like that kind of thing. Like go through, like, I like your work, I've seen this, you self-published some things, and I've seen what you've done, I'd love to work with you and that kind of thing. And it's like, those are the ones where it's like, while I may not be looking to work with you, those ones like, I appreciate the fact that you're real. Like that was a real offer, like that kind of thing. Exactly. And so it's really just having to look at with any of the offers and just how it's presented, and is there any way for you to think this isn't just the same message they've sent to 1,000 people? Make me feel special, y'all. I'm a writer, and damn it, I'm special.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
To that point, you have to see the technologies that are getting developed. You're going to see a lot of new artists coming along, and it's a lot of people benefiting from AI.
Absolutely.
And there are issues all around AI and what it's going to become beyond Skynet and us. We have begun the demise of the humankind, but beyond that, people say that anything that you can generate through AI you can use, and they're gonna have to legislate that this year probably, and some people are gonna try to make the most of it, but it'll get you in hot water, because some people are taking existing artworks and feeding it and feeding it and feeding it and using different elements from things to create a new thing that can get you sued.
Absolutely, and we're already seeing it. Look at Christopher Paolini. There was the whole thing where the book cover for his newest one, it's like, I can't remember the name. It's like Fractals or something. Like it's like along those lines. But he found out that his publisher was using AI art for the artwork, and good on him for saying absolutely not. But yeah, like, and that's Random House, I think, that he's with.
Oh man.
I think like we're not talking like small, because this is Paolini. This is Aragon. Like he's not a small author. Whoa. And so this is like Random House that was using that, and there's a lot of debate on whether or not the higher ups knew that this was going on. This was just something else was doing. Like this doesn't just affect indie. This is all of us. This is something we have to look at entirely, and this could be an entire topic by itself.
Yeah, it can. Before we shift to this next question, I'm going to play a video from our sponsor.
Do you believe in magic? I never did, until I started showing my powers. Now I'm whisked away to a magical coven far from home. Where I have to learn to control my renegade powers, or risk potentially killing everyone. Oh yeah, did I mention the dad I thought was dead is actually alive? And there's some crazy dark cult magic trying to take over the coven that he may or may not be involved with? Oh, fun times. The Coven series is a 5-book saga following a teenage witch and her journey from obscurity to unwanted infamy within the secretive UK Coven. Join Hartley as she discovers the depths of her new powers, navigates through school and family issues, and fights against the forces of dark magic. Will the so-called Coven princess be able to control the darkness that she was born with, or will she destroy the Coven she was born to rule?
Nice. Thank you, Lily, for sponsoring us today. Our next question, I'm going to kind of shift us back to the whole advice for new authors topic. What is something you wish you had known before you hit publish on your first book?
Well, not in terms of scams, but if you want to find a typo in your book, publish. And you're gonna find them all. You'll find them all immediately. It's not something that I wish I wish I would have known that scammers would be that aggressive, just so that I could set my expectations. I've always been one to err on the side of caution, and if something sounds shady, I just don't engage. So for me, piece of advice: be wary, be skeptical until someone convinces you 1,000% that it's a good idea to engage. And it shouldn't be like, oh, that message was sweet.
Anybody else? And it could just be something you wish you'd known in general starting out, for like advice for new authors kind of thing, not related to scammers, if you want to share.
I was some of my first experiences. I would get a lot of conflicting advice, which we're all trying to help here, but sometimes we do give conflicting advice, right? And it's hard to know which way to go, because it's just starting out. You're not even sure what kind. I mean, you have an idea of what you're going to be as a writer. But then you start writing and things start getting published, and you realize that you're going in different directions. So I wish someone had said, take all the advice, but sit on it all. Really think about it and find it, pick the pieces of advice that work for you, maybe even just for this story or this book that you're working on, this specific thing. And then let your experience marry with this advice, and you'll be better on. Because it was hard to take. I would worry someone would be upset because I didn't take their advice, and I was like, I don't know if this works for me. But they published 6 books, so they obviously know what they're talking about. So it's just, it's not be wary of advice. It's just you're going to get advice. Some of it will be conflicting, and so just let it all marinate, and then make your decision.
I think I got lucky a lot in that the way I did things and got into things is exactly the way I would advise someone else to do it. I just didn't know that I was doing it right at the time. Things like, hey, your favorite author, going and meeting them, you can be friends with them. They'll teach you the things that you need if they like you enough, and that kind of thing. And when I was 19 showing up and was so nervous about everything and like meeting everyone, it would have just been nice to be like, no, you're doing this right. This is where you need to go. This is going in, because I've not had any scamming that has happened, because I've been able to send messages out to several writers that are very successful in the industry and doing everything, and saying, hey, will you look at this? Will you vet this? And that's exactly what you need to do. And it's building that audience, or not audience, but building that community, and having those resources, that you're able to reach out to. If you have a favorite writer, now there are some that are hard. If your favorite writer is like, Brandon Sanderson, good luck. Good luck. That's gonna be a little bit higher of a hurdle. But if we're talking about even your normal, but I think the biggest thing that every author needs to know outside of all of this to going into this, and it's the thing that I always say every con at some point, is you need to know that the average income for an author is $4,500 a year. You just need to know that. You've got to be okay with that. Got to know realistically expectations of where success is going to be. Does it have to be that? Absolutely not. Do we all know writers that are killing it? And are any of us here writers that are killing it as well? I don't know. I don't know what y'all make. I ain't asking questions, but it's a reality that everyone has to be okay with, you know?
Yeah.
So I think for me, and a little bit more of the craft side for advice is get to know your genre. So one of the things when I started out is I was very new. I knew what I like. So on my very first book, I got a lot of help, but my cover screamed romance. Like I write urban fantasy with no romance. It's like dark and funny. That's what you're going to get. So I ended up having to redo my covers. I think I'm in round number 3 and finally can tell you like, okay, this says urban fantasy. So be very yes, because if you saw the first one, it's like, girl, that screams Twilight. I'm like, oh God, it was so bad. It was so bad. Everybody went like, what are we selling? It's like, I have no idea, but that's not it. So be comfortable learning your genre. Get a cover designer that understands the genre you're into that can help you. And as much as we say it and we hate to admit it, your cover sells the book. We're all creatures. We're all buy things by sight. I'm the one who goes to bookstores and buys the first cover. It's like, oh, it's a pretty cover. I'm going to get this book. And I'm like, should have thought about it more. So be comfortable with whatever you're writing and understand those tropes that's going to get in that cover. Understand what's going to get your book because it'll give you a really solid foundation. So you don't have to be like me and have to change your covers 3 times because that's not what you were aiming for. So that would be my advice for anybody starting out.
Kind of going on what DC just said, I wish that when I first started out, I wouldn't have joined so many multi-genre marketing promos and things. I wish I would have been more focused, because when you focus more on your genre and know your audience, you sell more books, you make more super fans, you know, people that are actually going to care about your book and want to follow you, instead of people who have no interest at all in it. They're just there for a free book or whatever else that they like. But of course, like if I was going to go into something that was multi-genre, I would look at for what I like, because, you know, why buy something that you don't care about? And I wish that, especially knowing as much as I know about genre marketing now, I wish I had some of that knowledge, but it was kind of like a trial and error thing until you sort of just go, it clicks in your head and you're like, oh, why am I spending my time on this when I could be doing this and it would work better for me? So I guess that's probably my biggest regret.
As a multi-genre author that struggles with sales and stuff like that, the thing is that I've always had, you know, writing has always been the side hustle. But I've always responded to what I'm driven by. If you see my playlist in music, if you see what I read in a year, it makes no sense. And that's kind of how I publish. And you know, it's just being okay with selling a couple of books here, selling a couple of books there, and suddenly you realize that, you know, in an in-person event, when people get to talk to you and you can talk about each of the different things, people go like, oh, this guy has more to offer. He's not a one-trick pony. And for me, that's always been like a really important thing. But always be true to your voice. And my voice in poetry is what it is. My voice in English and Spanish, because I also write in English and Spanish. And also advice for people back home in Puerto Rico. Make sure to read carefully the contracts. There are more small presses coming out that are a lot more legit and work with the authors, but there are a lot of people that, you know, they make their money in so many ways. One of the ways is that you have to print through them, and the minimum of books that you have to print is 100, 200, 300 books. 300 books multiplied by, if you're lucky, because they're doing it in Puerto Rico, so it's higher than KDP. But let's say that you're doing it through Amazon. 300 times $4, $1,200. You're in the whole $1,200, and you haven't edited, and they might not edit it. You don't have a cover, and they might not give you a cover, so you have to make sure about all of that. And Another thing is if you're going to self-publish and you don't have a long book, just push to at least have 100 pages so that you can have a spine,
Mhm.
because it does make a big difference. And people think it doesn't, but for me, it does.
All right, guys, let's take
I
a
like that.
pause break. We are going to have our indie connection before we touch on this topic, okay?
Hey guys, C.O. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. Today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of The Do-Over by Lynn Painter. This is a Valentine's Day sort of book, so I thought it was perfect for this week. The first book I have for you is called Time of My Life by Mary Frame. Today is the worst day of Jane Stewart's life, and she's reliving it over and over and over and over again. She's late to the same make-it-or-break-it meeting. She's fired from the same soul-crushing job. And the cherry on top? She's dumped by the same lying, selfish dirtbag. But no matter how many times she relives the same disasters, and no matter what she tries to change them, it all ends in the same abysmal mess. Because apparently, being stuck in a time loop on the worst day of her life hasn't cured her crippling social anxiety. Go figure. The one bright spot? Her longtime crush wants to be more than friends. If only she can get them past their first date. And so her happily ever is doomed before it can even begin, unless she can find a way to save her job, her heart, and oh yeah, the space-time continuum. The second book I have for you is called Midnight Repeated by Dani McLean. She's about to have the night of her life, over and over again. At 25, Laurie Miller knows what she should want. A serious job, a serious boyfriend, the ability to cook a meal that doesn't involve 2 types of cheese. Who cares if it isn't the future she had in mind for herself? It's about time she stopped pining over her best friend's brother, Max, anyway. New Year's Eve is a time for resolutions, and as the clock ticks closer to midnight, Laurie makes a decision. Next year, she's going to let go of the past and finally grow up. Except when she wakes, it's still December 31st. Then it happens again, and again, and again. What's a girl trapped in a time loop to do? Will kissing the right man at midnight set her free? The third book I have for you is called My Backward Life by Claire Merle. The last thing Louise Dawes remembers is collapsing on her way home from a gig and a boy trying to save her life. Now, 6 days later, she's woken up. But she's not in the hospital. She's at home, and it seems her life has gone on without her, except everything is messed up. Her best friends hate her. She's hanging out with a girl she barely knows, and a boy called Dylan wants to meet up to give her a letter. As it turns out, Dylan isn't just any boy either. He's the guy who tried to save her. Soon Louise will find out exactly what's been going on in her absence, because those missing days are happening again, only in reverse. While each day brings surprising revelations about her family and her friends, Louise draws closer to Dylan, hoping he can help her get her proper life back. But she doesn't anticipate falling for him, nor that these 6 days might be all she has left. After years of conforming to other people's expectations, Louise finally has the chance to be true to herself, but only if she can reach out and grab it. And the last book I have for you is called 5 First Chances by Sarah Jost. What would you do if you had one more chance for the life of your dreams? Lou feels like she is stuck on the wrong path, alone in a city far from home, watching other people be happy. When the man she's in love with announces his engagement to someone else, Lou is consumed by what-ifs. That's when she finds herself slipping back in time to a night 2 years ago, where one small decision changed everything. Suddenly, Lou has a chance to fix her mistakes. But as her choices lead her down roads she never could have imagined, she finds herself stuck in a time loop of her own making. And with each slip, Lou notices her life intersecting with one person again and again. A friend of a friend who once lived in the periphery, who is slowly becoming the one person who makes her feel like she might finally be on the right track. Lou is about to realize that our greatest love stories aren't always the ones we expected, but are the ones we choose to fight for. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye!
right, guys. So, what are some final thoughts you have on the indie predators and some advice for new authors?
I just have to say, it's nice. There's a moment when you realize that you're a dumbass, because I was watching the so we're going through all those books. I was like, well, all of these have a time limit. Yeah, that's the point, Alex. That's the point.
Yeah.
Be wary. The van does not have candy.
Or cute puppies or cats.
Please make sure it's got a window you can see the candy through.
Yes.
And clowns are evil most of the time.
I think one advice I want to give them is not all is bad. You know, there are really, really amazing things out there, by the way, because Courtney's in here. I got to say, I love everything she does. So she
Thank
was
you.
probably, and not because she's here, but just like, I get to tell you in person finally. It's one of those things. It was the first time that I got to have literally a service that I could trust. That she told you exactly what you could expect. Here's what I'm doing. Here's my fountain. This is what I promised. And actually deliver when she said it. So there are services out there that you can follow. They're not trying to scam you. And it's usually done by people just like you. So most of the times you're going to find services by authors who've been there, who are trying to help other authors. So the good news is there are stuff you have to do research, like JD said. Do some Google, put some time into it, and give yourself at least the grace to know that it can actually happen.
Yeah.
And this video just reiterates things other people said, is find a good community, right? Find one that's positive, find one that's authentic, find one that's active. I think is probably good, you know, and don't be afraid to jump in with other people's projects, so you can learn as you go what works best for you.
Also, someone doesn't have to necessarily be offering services for services to be available as well. We all like money. You know, I don't offer editing services. You offer to pay me for editing services. You're probably, if it's a good amount of money, you're probably getting editing services. You know, if it goes back to that building community, if there's someone that you know that has those skills, you offer them money, they're probably going to work with you. You know, because most of the time, so many people are, you know, especially when you know them, they're like, hey, will you do this thing for free? And like, you know, it doesn't feel good a lot of times, even when you know someone, have known someone for a long time, for them to be like, I know you've got these very marketable skills that you should be paid for because you know me, you should give it to me for free, kind of thing. It's like, it's not. And hey, maybe, you know, they'll be like, you know, that cool, I'll do it for this amount. Like can you quote you lower than what they'll normally do, that kind of thing. Don't expect that. But, you know, it's a great thing about building community. I have people that I would reach out to for cover art and formatting a cover and that kind of stuff. And sometimes it's like skill trading as well. Like I know that I can format ebooks well, and I have people that I'll be like, hey, can you format my cover if I format your next book? That kind of thing as well. And so
Barter.
Exactly. Barter system, man. Learn how to do something, do it well, and learn how to trade it for the things you need. Exactly.
That's great advice. I've just now started doing the whole bartering thing. So
to SM's or Sean's point, connect with people. The editor I use, I met through Go Indiana. A cover artist that I'm working with right now. I was on the writing tribe on a Monday sprint, and I was just venting and going like, this sucks, because I had two artists that, for personal reasons, they weren't able to do. They were great artists and people that I care about, etc. But it's like, you know, from hurricane damage to the home, to COVID, to everything else, to emotional breakdowns and everything else, two people couldn't do the job that I needed someone to do it. And Mike Jack Stombos from the writing tribe, he was hell bent on finding me someone. And you will connect with people if you're genuine enough, and you're out there. You will connect with people that want to help you and they want to see you succeed. But you know, from Go Indie Now, from Spilling Ink, from the writing tribe, from the entire author community in Puerto Rico, from Tasas y Portadas, Serendipia, and Letras, and all those people. You get to know people that help you out, and also allow yourself to be helped. Sometimes ego can get in the
Mhm.
way of getting help. That's I think that's the biggest tip. First off, you're not that special, but second off, you're not that bad. So, and just don't be an asshole. If someone offers you help and you need the help, take it.
I think you also got to remember that the reverse is true. If you're an asshole, no one's going to work with you. No one. And you will be blacklisted. We all talk.
Oh yeah, definitely
And-
don't be an
You
a-hole.
don't have to get along with everyone. There are some authors
No.
whom I know. I get along with most people, but I'm human. There's some people that something happened,
Mhm.
and but it's not like I go out of my way to rain on their parade and just bring them trouble. And I could, but it's like this is like it's life, and writing. Yeah, just don't throw. If you can click the block button, you can also click the mute button. You don't have to hear what that person has to say.
Mhm.
That's fine.
Absolutely. And it's like, when you're being vetted, if one person had a bad experience with you because of something and it could be on their end, cool. If you're being vetted and everyone had a bad experience with you, yeah, you're not getting anything. You're on your own. You are.
Choose a new pen name
Exactly.
and get a makeover.
Choose a new line of work.
All right, guys. Well, that is great advice. How about we go around and tell everyone where we can find you? We are going to start over here with Courtney.
Hey guys, you can find me at this link in bio down there or my website. I am on all social media except for Snapchat. And I have to throw that in there for Joe every week. But I am going to have a Kickstarter for Ink and Incantation that starts in March. And it's going to be it's not going to be this, even though this is a really beautiful cover. It's going to be a hardback that's been special designed and it looks really pretty. And I'm really excited about it. So I hope you guys will check that out. Information will be on my page. But that's it for me. Had a great time.
You can find me right down here at alexandergideon.net. Got links to all of my social, links to my blog. You can find me everything through there. Reach out. I love to connect. Being an author, I am egotistical. So ask me questions about myself. I will answer in detail. And yeah, I'd love for you to check me out.
Mute button. You can find my blog at thewickedboys.com. It's got my social media there as well. I'm a moderator for the Writing Tribe on Facebook. You can hit me up there. And I'm always happy. I'm really just starting myself, so I'm always happy to talk about that for folks who are also in that early stages. I still have plenty of advice I can give.
Well, thank you guys so much for being on the show. Before we turn it over to the final 5 minutes with DC, I just want to
got JD.
Oh yes, JD. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I talk so much that I okay.
I blame the cute that y'all
I'm gonna
may
turn
have
off the
heard
camera.
barking. Thanks, Alexander.
Thanks, guys. JD Estrada Writer. You can look for me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. If you're into poetry and want a big chunk, this is Recollection. It has 5 of my poetry collections and the poetry sections for the Daydreams on the Sherbet Shore and 2020, which is my bilingual collection. And speaking of 2020, I actually did 2020, which is 2020, which means that I translated the entire Spanish part to English. So if you want to see what a translation work is like, you can check out that book. And also coming up in March, I'm doing something called March of the Writers. I have prompts for every day. It gets pretty active, it gets pretty hectic, and again, it's all about connecting. And if you post that, if you tag me, and if you use the hashtag March of the Writers, I will retweet you, repost you, or whatever. So by all means, join in the fun, because it is fun.
Yeah. I'm going to show you guys the destruction that's been happening behind the show this morning. So this is why my brain has been like off kilter. But I'm Madilynn Dales, guys. You can find the links to my work here, thechaptergoddess.com. And before we turn it over to DC Gomez, I've got a little thing for you guys to check out. We've got some great shows coming up this week. And Monday, check it out. We'll be live. Ron's got a lot of stuff this week. I too am on a lot of the shows this week. Character Driven with me on Wednesday, and it's going to be a very busy week here on Go Indie Now Town Hall, which is going to be super exciting. Talking Indie Mayhem live with me this week as well, and yeah, like I mentioned before the show, guys, it's gonna like be a crazy week with me on Go Indie Now and AC Says Puppy. So, but without further ado, let's bring up, if I can get my stuff to work with me, right? We're going to turn it over to Miss Gomez as she talks to us about all of her amazing work.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Miss Madilynn. Thank you so much for this amazing panel to Go Indie Now. It's such a thrill to be here with everyone and to connect and to be able to chat. And hopefully the advice truly connected with you guys, so you guys know you're not alone in this community. We're all here together. So a little bit about me. I do write in multiple genres. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on urban fantasy. So the pictures you saw, the new book out is The Traitor. It's a little action. I have an assassin who hates to be an assassin, who is going back home to Salem, because I'm originally from Massachusetts. So back Salem for a really fabulous adventure where who did it is the question of the day. Looking for the true traitor, looking to see exactly who actually has betrayed the Order of Witches and trying to figure it out. So giving you a little action, a little madness. So if you enjoy quirky characters with a lot of attitude, I'm your girl. So come and find some fun with me. And once again, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And I had a blast. Thank you, Madilynn.
And remember, guys, it's always time to go indie now.